we are, one more beautiful day. Today, introducing Louisa Nicola. She is a neuroscientist from Australia, but currently lives in New York, where it is now covered in snow. But an island girl, coping with Mother Nature right there. Thank you so much for collecting and growing seeds with me on this beautiful community. I was so excited to bring you because you're one of those people with beautiful brains behind you that we have to learn so much about that perfect machine, which is our brain. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you. I'm actually so excited to meet you. I'm so excited to talk to your community, and I'm really happy we connected. You're doing some amazing things. You're in a world where I don't know anything about the whole acting world and that talent thing. I just don't have that on-camera talent thing. So I can learn a lot from you too.
I can tell you one thing right now. I'm in a show called Fear the Walking Dead, and I actually work with the zombies. And the only way...
That's amazing.
Which is crazy because now looking at from a crazy perspective is, they get infected and they're walkers, right? But the only way you can kill them is by killing the brain. Like, you can cut an arm.
Wow.
I know! You can cut an arm, you can cut a leg, you can do... They will not die, they will still try to infect you. But the only way you can get rid of them is by just literally going for the brain to shut it all down.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I love that. You know what I tell everybody, the brain is like the federal government. You have to take it down if you want to... It's interesting what you just said. We can live without our arms. Obviously, we know that there are things called amputation when somebody may have gotten into a car accident, or just because of a rare genetic disease, maybe they're born without a limb and they live perfectly normal lives. There is nothing really impeding on them. However, you can actually live, at times without a heart. You can have a heart taken out of you for a bit of time, and you can live on machinery to help you with the blood circulation. But you can't live without a brain. And that's why I call the brain like the federal government. It decides everything. So I love that in order to kill one of the zombies and take them down, you have to take down their brain.
That's it. You can shoot them, you can cut their legs, and they will just try to keep it alive. And there's no other way to just stop it but to get close to them and just go right there. It's crazy. So going to crazy metaphors with the zombies, right? Who would have known? That it's all connected, I love that. Isn't it? It really
absolutely
is.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yeah. So Nicola, Louisa, I love your last name, by the way, Nicola. I really do. I love that you work with athletes. I love that when I saw your profile. I love your passion about athletes and about training, not just their physical, which is what they do, right? But also training their mind. And it's really interesting because right away when I think of you, it took me to exciting games that people pay a lot of money to watch, and we are craving. We just passed the Super Bowl. It's one of the most, the time that we'll sit down to watch crazy, amazing athletes that are physically capable to win such a big thing, but they're also mentally capable. And also when we watch the Olympics, everybody loves to see an athlete just start winning game after game until they get their gold medal. And what I find interesting is that they always talk about, in the interviews, they always talk about how strong they are physically. You always see their trainers talk about, he trains this amount of hours, but nobody talks about how they're mentally trained, right? So we all assume, they're just so physically capable, but it's like we talk, everything is so aligned. And when I saw your profile and I saw how you match, how you connect them and kind of educate us that, yes, they're physically capable, but if they don't control this side here, this muscle, there's no way they can make it. It's it's part of their wins, but nobody ever talks about it. So
well, here's the thing. This is my thesis. I was an athlete myself, so I might give just a 2-minute
Yes.
warm up of who I am. So I was a triathlete. I raced in Australia, and while I was racing, I went to university and I did my undergraduate and postgraduate work in medicine and science. And in 2012, I fell in love with the brain. And the reason I wanted to really marry the two up, the brain and athleticism, is because it's combining the two loves of my life. Now, forever, for as long as we know, we've got these pillars of elite athleticism. If you want to be an elite soccer player or an Olympian in any sport, there's all these pillars. So you have to be great at the physical skill, you have to be great at the tactical skill, the technical. And then we also know that there was a psychological skill, and that's what you talk about. Okay. So these are the four pillars to human performance, and we've always trained them. But what we haven't trained is the neurological. Now, you've said so many times mindset, mindset, mindset. And I'm talking about neurological. I'm talking about the hardware, and the hardware is the brain. And not a lot of people know about the brain, but we know about the mindset because we know about emotions, we know about feelings, we know about tiredness, anxiety. We know all these things. And, they govern who we are and how we act in everyday life. But we don't know really what controls that. And in my perspective, I believe that there should be another dimension, which is the neurological, which is the training of the hardware to become brilliant, to become Cristiano Ronaldo.
So, so when you experience and you connect that within yourself, you decided to go in the path of the brain to connect with others, especially with because you understood what's like to be physically challenged, which is something I understand. And what are the things that you kind of, no matter what physical exercise they're doing, right? What is the one thing that you always put in their brains? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I've got some what I call non-negotiables to training, and it goes, hand in hand with any. So what we do is we get we get our athletes, we get NFL players, NBA players, and we've got Major League Soccer players. We focus
Wow.
the majority of our cohort or our client base is all in these three sports. Now they may come to us for different neurological problems. So what we do is they don't even have to have a problem. They may just want to get better. So we do a complete analysis. So we do a brain scan. So we find out what's happening in their information processing, reaction time, memory, and vision. So we find out where they are on a baseline. And then we put a program together for them to make them better, to
Wow.
really build their brain just the way you would build your body. Now, to answer your question, what's the one thing that I get them all to do? Well, the one thing that I believe that everyone should be doing, not just athletes. I think everyone
Yeah.
is an athlete, by the way. But what you can be doing, what I can be doing, is optimizing our sleep. And we talk,
Wow.
we hear a lot about why does sleep matter or why is sleep good. But if we can really understand the fact that sleep is rebuilding our brain and our nervous system, I think we should be able to get into more of a pattern of, calming ourselves down at night and optimizing our sleep. So that's the one
Wow.
thing, sleep. Yeah.
Because I think sleep, when, like, personally, if I don't sleep well, because I work a lot with like memorizations, right? The next
Mm.
day I feel like I'm not as sharp mentally, naturally. And
Yeah.
I imagine being physically challenged to how it would change the entire game for everybody. So
Well,
so
for yourself, for example, you have to memorize a lot of lines, correct? Like you can't stand there and be filmed and you have to memorize those. In order to memorize those, we know that we have to be utilizing an area of the brain. We call it the hippocampus, which is where we have the storage of memories and the creation of memories. So in order for that to even be functioning to its fullest, in order for you to be able to receive the information from that area of the brain and be able to put it out, into the world, you really need to have a great performing brain. And
right,
sleep, what happens is when we go to sleep, have you ever heard of the lymphatic system that we have in our body? We've got a lymphatic system.
right.
It's the drainage system. It clears and detoxifies all the toxins. What
Hmm.
we have in our brain is a glymphatic system, We actually have, the brain has a clearing system which cleans out the toxins and cleans out everything and creates memories for us and creates all that regeneration. But here's the beautiful thing. That system isn't activated in our sleep. It isn't activated unless we're in deep sleep. So you have to go to sleep in order to activate this glymphatic system in your brain, so we get the clearing out of all of these wasteful products and these toxins. So if you're waking up, for example, and you're feeling brain fog, have you ever felt that?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Brain fog, it means that that system was just not activated. We didn't get into a good deep sleep. Maybe there's a few things going on. So that's why I always say, sleeping isn't just to make you feel good. It's really restorative. You really need to do it to have a great performing brain.
And when you say sleeping is like 7 hours a day, like 8 hours, 6, like what is a good chunk, like exactly, an average?
Well, everybody's different, okay? So I'm one of those crazy people. I've got this on, I've got this on. It's like I track my sleep every night, but it's not about sleep. And what I would love for everyone to know is it's about sleep quality, not quantity. So you can be sleeping, it does have to be over 6 hours though. It has to be if I had to say a number, around 7.5 to 8 hours. But it's got to be deep quality REM sleep and slow wave sleep to have an effect.
That's impressive, because sometimes in long days, I notice that taking a quick nap, that it could be like 15 minutes. It just kind of, my brain is recharged. It's like, it's meditation also. What is exactly, everybody says meditation is great. I meditate every day, but I don't have the science behind it. Like, when you meditate, especially guided meditation, breathing, what is it that you're doing to your brain exactly? So people, when you tell them meditate, it's good for you, but you don't understand what it is that your brain is doing, really. Is it like resetting, breathing, like it stops thinking, you stop? I know what I try to do is like stop my inner monologue, stop what it is going. Like, is that, what
like
is
those
meditation
racing
into the
thoughts?
brain?
Yeah. So that's a really good question, and it's great that you're incorporating meditation. So you and I and every human have this beautiful thing. It's called the nervous system. The nervous system splits into two. And we've got the brain and the spinal cord. That's called our central nervous system. Then we've got another side, which is called the peripheral nervous system. So that is all of our nerves that comes out, all of the peripheral nerves, everything that comes out, that joins the central nervous system to the rest of the body. Okay?
Right.
Part of the peripheral nervous system, we've got something which you've probably heard of. It gets subdivided into two. We've got the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. You've probably heard of the fight or flight. You've heard of the fight or flight response. That's the sympathetic nervous system. It's our response to danger. It's our response to speeding up of the heart rate. So we need that. But then we've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called our rest and digest, our calm state. Okay. So you and I, what we're doing constantly is we are constantly trying to balance out the nervous system. So if this is parasympathetic here, it's like a seesaw. We're always, as humans, we're always trying to balance this out. Sometimes when we're feeling stressed, the sympathetic nervous system does this. Okay. Now, if we were to do this at the end of this tip here, when you're really, really parasympathetically activated, that's like you're in a coma. So you're completely out. So we're trying to go like this. Now, what happens is, this is the reason why meditation or yoga is good. We've always got these thoughts, racing thoughts. That's your sympathetic nervous system. It's in activation. It's fight or flight. What this is telling us is, prehistorically back, way back, caveman days, is there is a lion that's about to chase us. So the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, and it tells our brain and our body to stop digesting and just produce a lot of blood so we can run fast. Okay.
Wow.
So nowadays we're getting that same thought is getting activated within us, but there's no lion chasing us. It is a terrible text. It is late nights. It's sugar. It's bad sleep, or it's you go on and see your ex-boyfriend with another girl. It's like sympathetic nervous system, like
social
crazy.
media too. Anything
social media
that could just like light up.
Yeah. So what we're doing when we meditate is we're putting ourselves in that parasympathetic activated state. So then we're telling our brain, calm down, just stop with all of the thoughts, all of the racing thoughts. Let's activate that parasympathetic nervous system and bring it back to an equilibrium. And that's what we're doing. Yeah, it's a really great method. And, I applaud you on being able to do it, because meditating is not easy. So I don't use that word. I use just sit down and try and silence the mind. And if you can do that, you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's that's what when I say meditation, it's like what I try to do is shut down my inner monologue, what I hear myself telling myself all the time, whatever it is that I'm concerned or whatever. Like the moment I shut that down, I feel like I have some control over myself in a way, because being in that no sympathetic system, the firefly system, it's very
parasympathetic.
It's very scary. It's and especially in the world that we're living in right now. Like everywhere you turn, there's a freaking lion there. It's like looking at you, and you're like, oh my god, like what the hell? Like, it's like a freaking pack of lions everywhere. So you're like, how can I shut this down? And then you hear like, oh, meditate feels good, but you don't understand it. And your explanation makes perfect sense. Like
it's that balancing out of the seesaw.
Yeah, and we need it so much right now. I mean, and when you say exercising, I exercise, but again, I don't know the science behind it. I know when I sweat and when I move, I know naturally when you sweat and when you're moving, you're not really thinking. You're either running with an intention, and it's like you stop everything that you're doing. It's also like, for me, dancing ballet is the same. Like you're following the steps. You can't think of anything. So you're just focusing on an exercise, a movement, or a choreography. And why is that good for us? Like, is that another way to balance? Is it like another way to kind of meditate somehow?
Well, so that's great. What you said was exercising with an intention, but I'm going to bring in another lesson and learning. And we have these chemical messages in our brain, okay? And that really governs how we feel. So when we talk about emotions, what we're really saying is we've got a heightened level of a certain chemical being released in our brain that's taking over the other chemicals. Now, these chemicals are called neurotransmitters. Neuro meaning brain cell, transmitters meaning transmission of a message. So there is this wonderful molecule, and it wasn't recently discovered. However, it's gotten a lot of notoriety lately, and that molecule is called dopamine. So we as humans have this system. It's called the dopamine reward system. And this chemical is releasing. You've probably heard of dopamine and serotonin and endorphins, and they're all types of neurotransmitters. So this particular chemical is fascinating. It is the chemical messenger that gets released during anticipation towards a goal. So let's take this example. If you want to go and you set yourself a goal to run a marathon, okay? You ask yourself, what keeps pushing me forward? You look at these ultra marathon runners and you think, how do they keep doing this? And where's the motivation coming from? It's coming from this particular molecule, dopamine. What happens is you go out, like you said, you go and do a run with intention. You tell your brain, wow, I just achieved level 1. I'm not there yet, but I just achieved it. And it gives you a rush of dopamine, tells you, I can do this. I want to go more. So then you go a bit more. And every time you achieve a goal, you release another molecule. Okay, you release serotonin. So it happens in steps. So when you said, why do I feel good every time I go out and sweat? It's because internally, you're telling your body, your internal government, great, I've achieved this goal. I feel fantastic. I'm getting towards, maybe I'm losing a bit of weight, bit of euphoria. Yeah. So it gives you two classes of serotonin. It gives you two classes of neurotransmitters. It gives you the dopamine, which tells you to keep going. Okay.
Right.
The goal setting one, but it also gives you the feel good serotonin neurotransmitters that make you be like, oh, I feel amazing and I've achieved my goals. So you keep doing it. And we're all, we've suffered a lot of ups and downs in 2020. Some of us have been locked down. A lot of people have lost their jobs. There's been other catastrophes. People have lost lives. So it's more important now, more than ever, to understand how important exercise is. And it's not just important for weight loss or looking good. I really believe that exercise is a form of medicine. And if you look at the literature, and please, I always say a medical disclaimer. Anything that I do say on this is not advice in any way. Just please always consult your physician if you're going to do anything that I suggest on here. But if we look at the literature right now around COVID-19 and around a lot of immunodeficiency diseases, we know that they're starting from somewhere. And we know that if we can build our immune system, we're going to have a better chance of fighting these viral infections or these bacterial infections if we've got a strong immune system. And that starts with great sleep and great exercise and great nutrition.
I find it so interesting when you talk about the brain. It just feels like the perfect machine. It really does. I always say the body is really the perfect machine. We're just not educated about how powerful it is and how much is really there to help you succeed.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally, and with your plans and your goals as human. And I think right now, more than ever, like you said, people being stuck in the house, which is not healthy, by the way. I sometimes miss vitamin D. I miss going on a picnic or being in nature. Like naturally, we are social creatures. We learn so much from each other physically. So since all that is taken away, what do we have? What can we concentrate on? And it's like what you said, find a way to exercise, not just to look good, like everybody sells it, but also to feel good and to kind of build that immune system. It's like it's crucial right now, and knowing that the brain actually produces all these chemicals.
The neurotransmitters.
It's like insane. It's when you think about it, it sounds like magic in a way.
It is, you said the word magic, and it is beautiful. And if you can understand the backstory to everything I'm talking about, and once you become more educated, like you said, once you learn more and read more, you'll understand that your brain can be your best friend. It's there. It's really there it's there to help you survive. It's not there for anything else. It's like we have to survive. So it's always looking for a way to keep you, out of threat and to keep you alive and thriving. And it can be your best friend. My brain is my best friend at times. We fight a lot.
We
tend to get, sometimes we tend to get into arguments, but I treat it well and we get back on track. Yeah.
At the end,
every time I eat something
wins.
bad. Love, it's funny. Every time I do something bad, maybe I'll have a glass of wine or I'll have some chocolate, or maybe I don't sleep. This thing up here is like, I hate you. I'm going to take it out on you the next day. So there you go.
And it does.
It's like a good relationship.
But it's just really, and I have a question. What happens when we are not, even though we know that it's important to do exercise, that it's important to do this, why does our brain sometimes fight with us? Why is that internal fight of not, it's good, but oh, it's like that. Like your brain is like fighting with
Yeah.
you. Because sometimes I have those days, don't get me wrong. And sometimes I'm like in bed and I have to think, 1, 2, 3, go, go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, okay, go, let's go. And sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
no, I can't let
Yeah.
you win this one.
Yeah.
Why is also a struggle too?
Well, here's the thing. We know first and foremost that to produce a habit, we have to actually get out and do something. But it's really hard sometimes to get up and just say, like the Nike slogan, just do it. If we could
Just
all
do it.
just do it, then we'd have no issues in the world. But you're at
Yeah.
the very start of creating any habit, if you want to start a habit of getting up every morning and going to the gym, you do need to understand first and foremost that there is going to be some type of pressure. There is going to be that pullback. And that's where mental toughness comes in. That's where that notion
Mm,
of inner self talk comes in, meaning, Louisa, this is going to be hard. You just have to fight through it. You have to fight through it. And guess what happens, Danay, if you keep fighting through it over 3 months? It becomes easier.
mm,
You won't have to do any of that. But for that first 3 months, it's a struggle. It's like going on a diet. You know, if you want to lose 3 or 4 kilos, then you really have to cut out a certain
mm.
amount of food or a certain amount of calories. It's gonna fight you, but then it
It's gonna
becomes
fight you.
easier. So it's that we have to get more comfortable with that window of hardship. And
Right.
I learned that at a very young age because I was a triathlete. So we didn't have a chance. My coach, if we fought in any way, we'd get kicked off the team. So it was
Oh,
hard, but you learn your lessons.
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because it's very beautiful to know what the brain does, but it's also part of changing habits is to put yourself out there that it's gonna be hard and that making a commitment to go through it. What is the perfect morning routine for you as a neuroscientist? Like, what
Wow.
would be somebody that be like, if you give this to your brain in the mornings
Mm.
and let's put it out there that it's going to be hard. I don't know what that is, but let's put out there that it's going to be hard. More likely you will have a good day, like in a
Mhm.
general term, because I think everything starts with a good sleep. And what do you do first in the morning?
Yeah.
Uh, right?
Oh, no, I completely agree. And when I'm in Australia, my morning routine is absolutely impeccable. In New York, for some reason, it's not as good as what I would like it to be. But I'm not giving myself any excuses. But I'll tell you what I would say the gold standard of morning routines look like. And this is how I hope all of my athletes are doing.
Oh, I
Waking
want
up
to
in the
know.
morning and heading
Mhm.
outside straight away. Okay. So one thing that's really beautiful about nature is we we have this direct relationship. Our vision, our eyes have a direct relationship with the sun. And the sun emits a certain type of light that we can't get from a ring light that I have here, or we can't get from the light here. We can only get it from the sun. So if
Wow.
we go outside, we're activating our circadian rhythm. We're telling our body we are awake. Let's produce a little cortisol, and it makes us feel a bit better. Okay. So,
That's so nice.
first thing that we want to do, and this is actually, there's been a lot of literature right now, a lot of articles that are suggesting the reason why people are going into more depressed states or more states of anxiety during the lockdown is because we're not getting all that sunlight that is so good for us. So, first thing is go out, get some sunlight for the first 5 minutes, come back in and start your meditation process. Anything, science says that anything from 12 minutes and up for meditation is fine. You can do 20 minutes, that's perfect. But if you do
Mhm.
it at minimum 12 minutes, then that's fine too. And then
Wow.
I always love to include what I call power statements. You've probably heard of positive affirmations, correct?
Totally.
So
Yes.
these positive affirmations or these power statements, you're reassuring your brain, you're reassuring yourself that you are who you are, you're positive, you're excited, you believe in yourself, and you're going to go out there and do it, whatever affirmation you have. So if you can
Mhm.
do anything along those lines and maybe include a breathing breath work pattern or technique, you're setting yourself up for a very powerful day.
Wow, this is before even breakfast.
This is before breakfast. This is
This
before
is
you
such
touch
a
your look.
good
This is
ritual.
before you touch your phone. Now,
Yes.
it's very hard to do that.
I know, but I mean, what a great ritual. I mean, it's basically get some sunlight, breathe, meditate for
Yeah.
10 minutes, and project what you would like with your affirmations. I mean, it sounds really easy. It doesn't cost anything. It's not like you're
It
saying, like,
doesn't cost anything. But you know what would be really amazing that just came to my head, maybe for your community to try? Maybe you can all get a WhatsApp group or something and all check in with each other first thing in the morning at 7:20. I say that's like apparently here in New York, I say apparently because it doesn't tend to happen. That's when sunrise is meant to occur at 7:20. So maybe if you're home alone, wherever you are in the world, you can all gather around, get a group together and motivate each other and go out and do a morning walk to make sure you're all there at the same time, just to get you out of bed.
That's so sweet. We do have my community, they call themselves La Familia community. And we have a
La
group chat.
Familia?
Yeah, like the family. And
Yeah.
they are from all over the world. And every time somebody wakes up in the middle of in Australia or whatever, they're like, good morning for whoever is on this side of the world. And it's funny how we wake up in different obviously times, but we get this fresh start from everyone that has been out,
Oh,
that
that's
woke up
wonderful.
already. And it just keeps this like great vibe of like togetherness, and we're not alone. And that's such a great, I mean, do you think drinking water first thing also helps? Because what I decided to do is, when you sleep, you wake up, there's a lot going on now in the world. And I feel like I have this alarm that says water, drink water. Because we have to remind ourselves to, like, water is everything. We are like,
Yeah.
I don't know what, a huge percentage of water. Morning, when I wake up, the first thing I do is I try to drink this glass of water, and it just doesn't feel natural at the beginning because it's like, oh, drinking water. But I know that it's my body appreciates it. Like, there's something that it feels liquidy and strong. But what I will start doing is go outside in the sun for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
that is such a great and why? Okay, well, I guess you explain. What do you when somebody's going through a difficult time, right? It's being
Mm,
bombarded by terrible news and things that
mm.
we've been also going through it for 10 months now. Like, it's hard to keep up, right? What are the tips that you would recommend them to add into their routine when things are falling apart and their brain is like
Mm.
shutting down with stress? Like, the first thing to do, like when you're in that state, what is your mind doing when it's like going into anxiety, scared? What is going to happen to us as society in the world? When am I going to
That
see? When am I going to be able to
overthinking, anxious
travel?
state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when your mind is there, what is the first thing to do? Like, when your
So,
brain is like in that state of like, this lion, it's gonna eat
yeah.
us now. It's not like we see them. We're like, we are like dead.
Well, we think we are. Yeah. Well, that's
Yes.
so when we're in that moment, and that's actually something that I've been talking about with some colleagues is how can we get somebody who's in that hyper vigilant, hyper aroused, we call it, state of anxiety, and how can we get them to immediately shut that off? And that's very hard. And we know that we can do that if we have that mental strength of just to put the phone down and go for a walk, for example.
Mm.
So one thing to note is it's behaviors first, emotions second. What I mean by that is you can't shut off a thought with a thought. So when you're really anxious and I'm in front of you, I can't say to you, calm down. That's probably the worst thing that you can say neurologically. There is no way for you to say to your brain when you're in that, you've got one emotion going, you can't shut off a thought with a thought. You can't shut off an emotion with an emotion. So what you need to do is neurobiology says it's behavior first. So we can immediately, if we are in that crazy stressed out state where we're very anxious, what we can do is immediately drop and change your state. State meaning drop and do 10 push-ups, drop, go outside and go for a power walk, drop and do some star jumps. Just forget what's going on in your head, and it's behavior first. And what you'll find is emotions and thoughts follow that behavior, because you may go outside and do a 5-minute power walk, and you'll be very puffed out. So maybe you'll be thinking about, naturally thinking about breathing, or naturally thinking about what you saw in front of you when you went out. It's just a natural occurrence. So for anybody who's in that state and you're strong enough to stop, and look, don't get me wrong, I find myself in states like that where sometimes I don't even remember it's behavior first. So we all have to keep remembering that, and that's where I think a community comes into play.
Well, this is the reason why I wanted to bring you in, and thank you for this great. Like seriously, it's
No, thank you. I'm happy to be
here. It comes so easily. It feels like you have all the answers that we can kind of use in our everyday life. Having the tools in our toolbox in case of, always try to not wait for everything to break down. Just build everything you can to avoid prevention. I feel like it's
yes,
key.
That's a really good word.
Yeah, prevention for me is like super important. And the reason why I created this podcast and bring special people like you is that it's basically putting good, tools out there to prevent this breakdown, to prevent, this high stakes issues that we can all face because of the situation we're living in. And is that what you teach your athletes when they are like in under a lot of stress and the world is watching them? Like when they go into this state of like zone, and is that one of the tools?
So there's a psychological tool that's been used for centuries. It's called negative thought stopping. And there's another tool called anchoring, meaning if you're in a game and, I have a soccer player who, whenever he gets, it's a psychological thing. Whenever he gets near the goals, he starts to stress out internally. He starts to overthink. And then when he gets the ball, he loses the ball because he's doing too much mental work. So psychologists have this, sports psychologists specifically, have this specific routine, which is called negative thought stopping, meaning it's a three task situation. If you get a negative thought in your head, you want to produce a physical movement. So for example, a lot of people say click with your right hand. And then what you want to do is anchor that thought and think of something immediately that makes you happy. So this is why things like a vision board is great. So you can always remember, what is your vision? What's your ultimate, the most happiest moment in your life? Some people say it's with my kids, it's with my spouse, it's on a beach somewhere. So what you want to do when you're in that moment is you want to stop. You want to recognize that you've got that negative thought. You want to do a physical cue. Some people hit their leg on the field, or they'll click their fingers, and they'll anchor that thought and immediately think of their happy place. And it's if you do that over and over and over again, every time you get into a bad pattern of thoughts, you can really rewire those patterns. And if you ever see an athlete, wearing an elastic band, it's a very normal thing. You'll just see them doing this, flicking their wrists. Yes. It's a prominent psychological tool used, in athleticism for many years, where every time you have a bad thought, you flick your wrist.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is so brilliant. I mean, it's so great that these tools are out there for people that are like playing at high stakes circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in your field, what are the things that you feel the most connected with? Like because you have this podcast that we want to talk about and direct our audience to them.
Yeah.
I listened to some of it and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Whoever is interested in this powerful brain, please check out. But what is the one thing that you feel the most passionate about, that you feel like, okay, I want to send this to the world? Because we talk about athletes, but I feel like we are, like you said, athletes in our own ways. Like we're always racing something. We're all going always toward the goal. And the same way we have to work our emotions, our physical, we're all connected. So what is that one thing that you feel that you're passionate about? What part of the brain, what part of us is that one thing?
I mean, there's so many, like, there's 3 questions there. If you could ask me what's my favorite part of the brain, it's the cerebellum. It's the little part of it's called little brain, but it sits underneath the brain, just just here. And it's I think it's very, very beautiful. It acts the same way as the brain. It's got 2 lobes, and it's involved mainly in posture and coordination. But I think in that field, what would be my greatest love is I'm now starting to fall in love with sleep, and doing a lot of talks on sleep science and how it's becoming better. And the more that I read about it, the more that I realize that the importance of sleep it far outweighs anything else. I think sleep outweighs nutrition, and that's a very big call. I think sleep outweighs breath work or anything that we know. And I think we're still at the early stages of discovering its effectiveness.
Wow, that's amazing. Who would have known? I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that also nobody talks about, the sleep, like how sleep is part of our, back in the day, in caveman years, how long did we sleep really? Like, did we sleep?
I'm not
just,
I
we
think
don't
a lot
know.
longer, 12 hours a day, I think.
Did we really?
Maybe we did. Actually, no, maybe we didn't, because we actually had to go out and physically spearhead an animal and kill it with our hands. So maybe we didn't sleep as long as what we can now. But we certainly didn't have the technology back then that keeps us awake.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And do you have one of these little machines that makes sounds to sleep?
No, I don't like any sound when I'm sleeping.
Yeah. Okay.
Like white noise? Like white noise, you call it?
Yeah, like they sell these little machines that they make
It's
nature, or there's a background. No, you just passed out.
No, but one thing that I do believe in is I wear a mask every night, because I believe in having a pitch black. I don't want my eyes or anything to have any light near them. So I'm actually it's crazy, because I actually can't sleep without my mask. And I remember I was traveling to Miami, or maybe it was to LA not long ago, and I lost my mask, and it gave me some anxiety. So I was like, okay, I have to run and get a mask now. It's if I can't go to bed without my mask.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, Louisa, this has been, so where can we find you? Where can we follow you with your journey in the, learning about the brain?
Yeah.
Where can we find you?
You would know I'm very active on Instagram, on my personal Instagram. You can follow my company's Instagram, Neuro Athletics. Or if you want to know more about neuroscience, you can go and check out the podcast, which is on all platforms. It's basically a library of neuroscience. It's called the Neuro Experience.
I saw that, and it's been, for those of you that want to learn, and I wanted to say about your podcast, the one thing I like about it is that it's you really learn about something nobody talks about unless you're like a specialist, right? In a way that I can understand, in a way that, sometimes I care so much about the brain because it's my friend, and I try to read about it, and it's so hard to understand sometimes these books, like the way that the wording is, and it's like, wow, it's really hard to digest, and your podcast it's kind of like, it's a way that is approachable to me. I understood. I didn't feel overwhelmed. I didn't feel like the brain is like bigger than me. like it's hard. It's like talking with a doctor about what they did in second year of medical school. It's like, no, can we just talk about the body in a way that I understand it, because it's like I have it. So
that makes me feel really good
to say, thank you for having that kind of like that source out there for everybody to be educated, and all the stuff that you're bringing, and the great doctors that are there to educate us. It's like pretty special, great people around. And so thank you so much for being part of this great great session episode. I'm so excited to put this out. I was, like I said, I was looking forward to it because it's I feel like we have to be educated about this powerful muscle that we have, which is our brain. And having you here has been a pleasure and a joy.
Thank
100%.
you. Thank you so much. And be sure to let me know when it's out. And I'm excited to listen to it also.
Will do. Will do. Okay. Talk to you soon.
Bye.